All right guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff Cordero, and today I'm gonna be going over the two broadheads that I carry in my quiver this year from Ironwill Outfitters. These two broadheads are identical in weight, but they are much different in their construction and the size of the broadhead. So this is the standard solid 135 grain Snyder Core broadhead from Ironwill, and this is the 135 grain vented wide Snyder Core broadhead from Ironwill. Now, both of these weigh the same, which I can make an identical built arrow. They both come out to be 501, 502 grains, right in that ballpark. All of my arrows weigh within a grain and a half of each other. And the reason why I went with these broadheads this year is because they're glue-in. Now, Ironwill makes really great broadheads. They're incredibly sharp, and I can attest to that with the fact that I've got a few stitches from one of these broadheads earlier this year, and they are very sharp. Cut healed very well because it was cut very cleanly. Now, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for an Ironwill broadhead, but in my opinion, so far, as much as I've used them and I've killed a deer with one of them, they're absolutely durable and they're gonna last me for years to come. In the past, with other broadheads that I've shot, they've all kind of been like one and dones. Like I'd shoot it through an animal, stick it into the ground, and yep, that broadhead just kind of got retired. I always thought of it like a bullet. Once the bullet leaves the casing out of the end of the barrel, that bullet's gone, it's never coming back. That's kind of how I treated broadheads. You're not gonna resharpen replaceable blades. Now I know that's convenient, but when you would take it apart, the blades just kind of be going everywhere. Some of them would rattle if they didn't fit quite right. And I kind of just wanted something different. Now, shooting a 4mm shaft, I've talked about this in the past on my channel. I don't like the components that come with 4mm shafts. The outsert that comes with these Black Eagle X-Impax arrows, in my opinion, it sucks. The focus system that they have that you can buy separately for these is a little bit better because it actually does have an insert that goes into the shaft. The reason why I went with these is because they are glue-in. This whole broadhead glues into the shaft. There is absolutely no weakness point from threads inside of this broadhead. Now you can screw on some insert pieces to the end of this broadhead to create more weight, to create more FOC. And that's what I did. I screwed a 15 grain insert to it before it got glued in, but once it's glued in, it's in there. Now I use cool melt so I can take these out if I ever wanted to use these in another arrow. So I recommend using cool melt. I particularly wouldn't epoxy these in here unless you plan on hunting with those arrows forever. The reason why I carry both of these offerings in my quiver, let's get to that right now. I want one that has a wider cutting diameter. So when I was elk hunting and mule deer hunting, I was shooting these standard size 135 grain Ironwill broadhead, the solids. These things fly absolutely great, and I'm actually gonna do an audio test for you guys that's gonna compare a field point, the solid, and the vented all together, and you can hear the audio difference. These solids fly just about as quiet as a field point. It might not be as quiet as a field point, but I could not tell the difference between shooting this broadhead and a field point from my ears, listening to the arrow go down range. Typically, most animals, especially ones that are further off, are not jumping the snap of the bow. They're jumping they can hear the arrow the closer it gets to them. That's my opinion. I've seen enough stuff. That's what I believe. So, and I want to shoot the quietest arrow I can possible. If you're buying a bow from a top manufacturer, they're all pretty quiet, and every bow this year is pretty much quieter than any bow was 10 years ago. So the thing that I'm trying to quiet up now is my arrow. This arrow is really quiet and it shoots really accurately. Out to 100 yards, I can get these solid standard size broadheads to group with field points, group together, and absolutely have all the confidence in the world. If I need to make a long range shot with this broadhead, this is what I know I can do it. And if I need to make a follow-up shot that's maybe outside of my kill radius, I know I can do it with this broadhead. Now, elk are a lot denser, tougher animals. They have bigger scapulas, bigger ribs. I wanted to shoot something that was a little smaller that was able to get through that. So for me with an elk, I'm not concerned about punching the biggest hole possible. I'm concerned about punching as many holes as possible. I want to get a pass through. I want to punch holes through both ribs and come out the other side. That's going to give me my maximum chance of finding that animal. So here in North Carolina, I'm shooting this wide vented version of the Ironwill Broadhead. And the reason why is because here in North Carolina, I want to punch the biggest hole possible. I'm not worried about this broadhead coming out of my bow not being able to blow through the scapula of a deer. I know it will. It's a 500 grain arrow coming out of a 78-pound bow. I know this is going to blow through any deer that I shoot. Now, shooting bears are typically a lot bigger. They have a lot more fat on them, especially these fall bears, and they're furry. Now, I want to punch the biggest hole I can to give me the best blood trail possible. I know typically with bears, it doesn't matter what broadhead you shoot, you're not going to get the best blood trail because they do have a lot of fat, because they do have a lot of hair, and that holds a lot of the blood. So I want to give myself the best chance of finding that bear and the best chance of getting a blood trail. So I'm going to punch the biggest hole possible that I can. That's why I'm carrying both of these broadheads with me in the field this year. So I'm going to get to shooting some of these, get you guys the audio differences of them. All right, shot one, field point control. Shot number two, the solid Ironwill standard sized broadhead. Shot number three, this is the 135 grain wide vented broadhead. Move that GoPro so it's halfway between so you can get a mid-flight sound of that broadhead. All right, guys, so now that you've seen me shoot all three of these, you can tell which one's the quietest. And I mean, the field point's quiet, but this solid is right there with it. And this vented, it does have a little bit of a whistle to it, but I think if you're shooting inside of 50 yards, it's not gonna give the animal enough time to react. I do feel like I can be successful with any one of these broadheads, either one of these broadheads in my quiver. I'm not gonna shoot a field point. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Drop a comment down below which broadhead you're shooting. And if you have any questions about these Ironwill Snyder Core broadheads, I've got to play with them a little bit this year. I purchased these myself and I've cut myself with them, and I can tell you how sharp they are. They're very sharp. So be careful if you're shooting one of these. Catch you on the next video.